Hello, mo welcome back again lo first edition lo Stret Tok program lo ngimi lo nga weekya. Thank you lo stop follow mo time kata platform lo VBTC. Simi stop host mo kata shows where me helping me understand some kata situation inside the country, and today lo Stret Tok session bli me where me first ever edition lo iya. Me fortunate block out with the one special guest inside the studio, where me Deputy Prime Minister, at the same time Minister of Finance, Honorable Johnny KOANAPO, we me welcome him inside the studio. We start with me today. And now I think this session by me, I think give up in start looking a topic, a theme where VBTC me go with them this month. You me look me talk about Vanuatu, understanding Vanuatu's financial situation, priorities, more get the roads ahead, inside, especially the minister talk about economy. Thank you to Mas Deputy Prime Minister plus have me time come lo VBTC plus have stop lo today lo talk about some of the insights lo economic outlook premier as Mr. go forward. So thank you to Mas. Welcome inside the studio.
Thank you, Jimmy. Once again, let me good you me come back again lo studio. And also when you tell me maybe first episode. Lo this year plus Stret Tok. Good you me update them all people blue me lo when we have stuff happen, so we look forward to conversation lo today. Some fellow only stop lo all places only stop lehem good lo sit down where you me listen lo basically lo financial update or economic update lo country blue me lo when we stuff happen. And I got full up look. But when we missed up, I me try ma update ma all people blue me lo economic situation blue me lo beginning blue ya kam kasem now ya. Ale I me give him blue me one hour look lo how well you missed up go, how badly you missed up perform. Blow make them say people do at least have make them own contribution lo work lo help them country because responsibility to build them country me no stop lo one man me stop lo me everyone, so me been look forward lo te me to have address some lo all issues, not all issues but maybe some issues by me of interest lo all people blame me lo Republic lo Vanuatu. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Minister. I think last year you got used in first guest the first edition of Stret Tok, and this year you fortunate by again block got used in first guest inside the first edition. Yeah. So thank you to Mas for having me time, and just all the questions we me come up today. Me full up become the concerns we I think public me got, especially the side the economic outlook. Yeah. So I think plus you start I think Minister lo past 5 years you look at country me go through a lot in the past 5 years. Through natural disasters, political instability, we look at intensified law 2023, and then we let me call one referendum, national referendum, 2024. Now, you may experience him after later 2024. You may experience him one of the biggest natural shocks, earthquake, 2024. With all these sequences of events where may happen, one can only imagine how delicate now economy been stable. So. If I want them, as minister with responsible economy, how realistic is our economic outlook compared to the past years, and which direction now economy please takolem now?
Thank you. Me thinking how you've been framing my question, please. I think you've been framing very correctly. Say last couple of years. Country have been go through a lot of things. Firstly now, the issue of political instability. Everyone only have all issues we go through them. The political instability. Kasema 2023-2024, you may got all changes law level block government. You make them say. Me distract and plan the focus lo country le time we me look all natural disasters too we been hitting me no been give him Chinese lo some of the all main sectors me only drive lo full potential lo kada ale So then where you got one combination lo political instability, you got one combination to lo natural disasters, and we got one the heavy impact lo economy in general, meaning we all business only thrive, policy focus for government, budget reallocation with the implementation of projects. You may pass them, you may come through law referendum, and referendum have one major turning point. Law country blue you me, law sense, me come in, me address me issue, law political instability, law country, and then you may been successfully implement them, and you may pass them. You make them say, this is the first government after law referendum. So, by you expect them, say, by promise law stability in terms of when them where referendum have been promising to people, you may want them look na at least stability, and should be angered. You allow for policy block government, hemi thrive, and then you must have a look at some real impact. So we have gone through quite a lot. Even lo late 2024, you may go through lo earthquake where me affect them basically FAT, where now me heartbeat lo economic activity lo you me lo country, and hemi minimum say me slow him down economic activity lo you me plante, me slow down. So after the earthquake, you may start you may rebuild. During the earthquake, you may have a number of all arrivals. Liquidation play Vanuatu to him be one big issue where he been contribute law all passengers or the number of all passengers coming in, he drop. Earthquake he come, so country he go through quite a lot. But suddenly at this time, after the earthquake, you may begin you may look in one positive growth and start to come back, and they give you me confidence. Last year, government have been doing quite well. The fiscal update we been give you, government have been doing quite well. Revenue targets plan, maybe exceeding revenue targets plan. In terms of economy, this year back again, you may been predicting last year 7 by economy blue this year, and by having stable 3.7%. And that was quite an improvement from after earthquake. This time, last week, I think time where all macroeconomics committee only been making assessment block at the back end, only upgrade them back again, grow there, have me outlook 3.7% or 3.9%, and we go 4% this time. So at this point in time, let me give you one indication lo all economic activity where we stop go on time where you may talk about him, yeah. Then you may talk about all different sectors where only contribute lo growth here. Lo agriculture sector, you may look in Bambai, hemi continue belong hemi grow industry, hemi stop pick up land there, there's a lot of building activities hemi stop go on. Agriculture, hemi stop pick up again, including services sector play so hemi make them see every activity only come back. You may start, you may look in more economic activity, you may start happen. A lot is yet to be done. But in terms of outlook, you may now, you may start 4%, and you may expect them, you may maintain them growth, you go next year back again, all time we stop come. And I may give him, you may one positive outlook, economy, and maybe later on, I may have update them people about, yes, I mean, time when you look global economic growth, by confidence you me, by him no save run in isolation, when we stop happen global economic outlook with the regional outlook you me. So globally, it is predicted that by economy, hemi stable 3.something%. But then when you look in all predictions by IMF. But then when you look in war, hemi happen suddenly, this year, then hemi make him say only downgrade them back again economic growth projections. So when we have happen outside, then we got impact lo yumi, for example, lo side lo fuel, where yumi import them all the fuel where yumi stop needing lo run them economy lo yumi lo country, yumi start import them outside the camp. But in spite of that, time where you look in lo regional economic growth, where IMF and even ADB only project them growth lo region, yumi stop around lo 3 point something %, less than 4%. But then we look lo Vanuatu, growth blue yumi hemi stop lo 4%. So the government emi positive lo we yumi stop konaya. But yumi no must be overly optimistic.
You mentioned the government is positive lo the growth we must call them now. How now you have justify this economic positivity we tell them with them all people will stop currently facing high cost of living.
Yes, time where yumi look lo inflation, cost of living lo yumi emi dependent plante lo or something where yumi no save production lo country but yumi garam outside the camp. And time where yumi got all issues also where yumi got war lo Middle East or even lo Ukraine, let time where me affect them all logistics. Le emi affect them production, emi affect them oil where emi come, emi got increase lo price from war and suddenly emi affect them yumi tu so by emi minim se bulk lo all inflation blue yumi we all time Reserve Bank emi stop talk about emi imported inflation be the rising cost of blue yumi in terms of inflation. Time when you look when the Reserve Bank can be stop telling blue yumi say we should stop within the range to 0 to 4%. So at this stage, yes, we stop in as far as Reserve Bank can be concerned, and we drop plan there, we stop within the range plus 0 to 4%. But then when you look cost per view, let me come, and then all ship owners, transportation systems, only take them rising cost ya, or in building lo cost lo kata cost lo islands Papa yumi save dalam say yes yumi contain them inflation. But then when you go lo all islands yumi, emi price emi still high. Price emi still high, and we got all figures lo place up lo give him. For example lo tana, no lo santo, only no semak, only got all different inflation rate where all cost of living all people will stop experiencing low islands yumi. But generally lo country yumi save dalam say yes emi stop within lo target range yumi. For example lo tana inflation lo Portville this time emi stop lo 1.3%, while Lucanville emi rise equal lo 1.5%. And places also lo Lenakel, for example, emi stop lo 3.9%, where mi minim say all price of all goods lo store lo Lenakel with them lo Santo, emi just slightly above on them where you make out lo Portville. So again, hemi want something where you really need to work hard, you try address them cost lo logistics more every cost to him stop contribute lo high cost. Lo all people yumi, lo all rural areas yumi.
Thank you too much, Deputy Prime Minister. I think since you touch in lo the high cost of living, we must look him just curious no one now get the pros and cons lo as of increasing current minimum wage stop now. You think say current one possible increase the minimum wage stop now possible with them current economy outlook premium.
Yes, again, lo question lo minimum wage. Everyone only got all the different look lehem, and then by you must always balance them out lo interest lo business, where the business only want to maintain them cost lo kata hemi low and one low cost lo kata na hemi labor cost lo make them only have produce lo way where you continue to sustainable only make them profit and you continue to sustainable kata be lo view plomi personally me believe say inflation emi stap dalam lu yumi se pambai minimum wage lu yumi need lu yumi stop adjust them for them rising cost. And I hold the view that minimum wage lu yumi maybe lo way where yumi been increasing lo 2023 by 55. Then that's across the board. And I mean no fair lo some all sectors where only require more skills. For example, maritime sector. All people believe me, only go school or maritime college, or tourism college. Only got one certificate, only got make them back, and then only still stop lo same minimum wage inspired lo skill. Only go karem. Me lo few blo me believe say and me raise with the Minister of Internal Affairs finish. Me believe say me important say you need to review back minimum wage please but you review sectoral minimum wage. So you review according law sector only your priorities please me let's say and all sectors where only all workman blimi or man bless blimi only got certain level of qualifications. They should be paid according to qualifications, and minimum wage blimi should be reviewed immediately. Bloi address more places, because in doing so, by you find them say by you me reduce a little bit so all high employee turnover lo some sectors also lo maritime sector also mi sa talk about where only go school. Pe oli karam certificate come back, pe oli still stape mol kata lo minimum wage, and then oli mas out oli go pick up all fruits or any lo seasonal workers plimi lo Australia. So then hemi di private sector ya. So I need lo yumi mas address minimum wage lo all sectors, and all sectors where yumi have address one now lo shipping sector because hemi contribute lo cost lo shipping and transportation to equal islands, and then hemi try to reduce back again when we yumi stop look lo all cost of living lo all rural areas yumi. So lo side lo minimum wage me got position you know and me one them lo look yumi got one review back again lo minimum wage yumi be do it properly so that you draw one balance. Lo emino in given cost all business me where lo end day time where me too costly lo li higher they will not hire, and then whenever you look at me increase lo all unemployment me. So you must draw one balance. But I think for lo sectors by me good some professional sectors me like financial services. Olkata oli stop address me finish. But I need to must make me become one strong policy me lo government. And I think we will stop discussing finish, and we believe say Minister of Law Internal Affairs me stop work lehem. Me savedu say new Law Commission lo Labour this time, and me stop consult with them all officials me lo Ministry of Finance lo try and find them one right balance. Lo place lo make them say me no head them economy and especially lo employers, businesses.
Thank you too much, Deputy Prime Minister. I think just for interest for people more, how soon are we expecting a change in that happening?
Me one call lo Minister of Internal Affairs me address me with them Commissioner of Labour. But I think lo you miss supposed to say you miss have a look him happen sooner than later, but by him really good and supposed to say you need to look at certain amendments law legislation to make govern minimum wage by end of this year. I think it'll be really good, and I'm looking forward to that because by him help him give him one decent standard of living. All people will full up only work hard, and they need to be remunerated properly. Yes.
Thank you too much, DPM. I think you've been mentioning earlier about the International Monetary Fund. You look in IMF lo Article 4 report plan 2025. And we've projecting one growth for 1.7%. You think she's accepting the fact that our economic recovery become weaker than one the government has been expecting?
Yes, the economic recovery hemi bounced back quickly than when IMF hemi been predicting. Lo article 4 mission blor kada oli entitled lo all assessments blor kada. But on the ground, you as a sovereign government, you make a more assessments you lo economic realities where you start look on the ground. Today, you start look tourism arrivals you lo country hemi lo first quarter no more. I think hemi kasam over 100,000 finish only all arrivals you lo first quarter hemi over 103,000 arrivals. That's both aviation and cruise arrivals. So let me start giving you indications the economy and start bounce back. And you make at about 7 international airlines, so let's start 7 you mean naya. One of them where macroeconomics committee me make an assessments and then me find them out too say low accommodation sector you me this time me pick up big one, especially low peak season you me where we should start around low for June, July, August low third quarter me kind of a big season you me so all hotels only booked. So me give him indication say okay tourism arrivals and come and of course you mean no want to oversimplify things but time where more people only come and then you be looking increase to low VAT where only got consumption me increase. So therefore government me collect. So places you now you may start looking people change lo side lo revenue you me lo beginning blue come kasem now.
Thank you, Thomas. Just blow current opinion, I think lo presentation blow budget speech blow 2026. Yeah, I think government we call it maybe project forecasting one growth blow 4%, but while IMF me forecasting one growth below 3%. So we tell them know which figures now emi realistic lo public trusting.
One of you me got today me semi talan finish me you me revise him growth you me lo last week. So this time, one name we been predicting the budget speech lo stable 4%. Today, me glad lo me talam say government and me confirm say growth lo me based lo macroeconomics committee announcements last week and me stable 4%. So I think position lo government and be credible enough lo me have trust.
Thank you, Thomas, Deputy Prime Minister. Now, also, we acknowledge cost of living where burden and full of struggling families. You saw the currently normal people whereby you know got any new taxes or increases whereby you further burden among them.
There are no new taxes this year. There are no new taxes this year. However, the Yumi demand all services Yumi pick one. And then we look lo budget for example for refreshing public park and more than time we been trauma budget lo this year we start 64 billion. And then because of increased demand lo education sector, health with them some all sectors where you need them you must invest them you make them say lo supplementary you push budget you now yeah we start 74.7 billion this time. And me glad lo talaman and while me got the opportunity Jamie I could me give him a little bit update lo him yeah because 74 billion yeah 74.7 billion yeah lo revenue you me collect them so far me start 29 billion where you be collect them so far, 2026, which means 55% the budget you me where you supposed to collect them, you me collect them finish. That's up until June, but you got some paper, all journals where all officials will stop working yet. Me supposed to illustrate them every records, but by likely say you me have looks percentage where you me collect them so far have me more than one where you me sub them now we have me 55%. So revenue you me at this time government revenue have me 8.9% over the target this time. But Bambai oli straight mo pepa walk yet bambai yumi lukim si revenue emi save KOANAPO so time when you compare them figure what yumi collect them lo 2025 lo same period lo half year yumi stop 5.7% higher. So last year yumi been got some surplus. This year yumi 5%, 5.7 higher finish above lo same mark period lo last year, which means that position lo government lo this time hemi good lo sense lo financial capacity lo government this time hemi good, which means government hemi no required now ya lo hemi make one borrowing because revenue blo yumi hemi exceed them target mo hemi stop at least you meet them target blo yumi mo yumi exceed them. So we're doing quite well now in terms of our revenue collection, and I got more figures for give him all people believe so that all is have a understand them full actuals believe me. And while me got this opportunity, maybe me tell them, for example, VAT me record them value added tax me record them 8.2 billion lo beginning blue year kam kasem na ya. In other words, hemi 51% low revised target budget to 16 billion. So you hit him more than 50-something% finish low target low VAT alone. We're not looking at increasing the VAT. VAT remains same mark. But when we make them naya, and by end of this year, by you roll them out sales monitoring system, Vanuatu sales monitoring system. Where by him should help him you blow increase him amount where you stop today. Excise tax, me one existing tax. There are no new taxes. Excise tax, you collect them 57.6% finish above low target. Taxes on international trade, you collect them 56.5% finish low target. So on the citizenship program, economic citizenship program, you may exceed them target by 71. You meet him 71% finish low target. So lo January kam kasem now ya. You may comfortable with the position of government, which I minimum say, Pampai government I mean no issue one more bond yet. Low way you may stop go. You minimum say, Pampai you may reduce some count you may yet. But you mean no make any extra borrowing this time because money hemi stop. You may use some law expenditure. You may law government. So there are no new taxes, existing taxes, but you may stop improve efficiency. You may. That's why even without new taxes, also we you tell them, but you may still rise above all targets. You may and stop cautiously optimistic. But you may hit them one more plus law end of this year, but time will tell.
Thank you, Thomas, Deputy Prime Minister. You mentioned him about how I mean about touching all the accounts premium. I think we want to touch more side look at the debts. Debt we got now. I think lo government data me show him say stop debt stop public debt stop close to 40 to 44%. By just correct was wrong. 40 to 44% lo GDP. At what point now you think say country plimi with them small economy we got by me sustain him one debt long but no service sustain him.
It looks size economy me stop around low 160 to anything between 160 to 170 billion Vanuatu in terms of total production of goods and services where country is producing within 1 year. So that's the size of GDP plimi. Okay, lo debt, I think figure what you give him no correct. I think precise figure where Ministry of Finance hemi got on record na hemi 35.7% lo debt to GDP pro yumi. Okay, hemi minimum say and hemi likely say by time where yumi be out one more debt where hemi due one small count yumi back again where hemi due lo this year, but by hemi drop him overall debt yumi, which means that by percentage where you stable him now according to threshold where IMF and stop give him, we're in a very comfortable zone. And when by you look him say, even if you know 50%, I mean even 40%. Me no wonder blue 40%, but even suppose he 40%, it must be that we are responsible. It must be that we you make him because you me fund them all infrastructure by me enable them economy blue you me blue him drive more blue build them up GDP blue you me and grow them all economic activity and expand them GDP blue you me lo country. At this point in time, that blue you me stop one manageable level, and then which means you must have a sustainable. And with them revenue we have stop come inside, which means you may collect them revenue, you may pay out all count blue you me, and then you may still run them expenditure blue you me. So me one very positive something where country blue you me looks at revenue blue me stakamanta me will do stop trying to minimize some control lo expenses blue me, and in fact lo first quota expenses blue me drop a little bit, which means that they got one proper strict management with Ministry of Finance and we make him lo side lo expenses blue me try and keep him expenses blue me under control, and then you me fund them all expenses blue me give him expenses blue me under control. At the same time too you me stop him out all count blue me, and then manage him that blue me. So you mean also one that distress situation at this point we were that blue me stop.
So you say tell him at what point never be manageable.
By also anyone by me should think that they supposed to make about 50% plus GDP, then by me be too much.
Okay.
But lo that strategy you me by you mean no save push you me you go lo place lo 50%. I mean some countries today that to GDP ratio lo kata me stop way above lo average. I mean way above lo 50%. Some for stop lo 60, 70. Plus you me stop lo 35.7%, which is very manageable. But me stop one them also minister responsible. Me one them you me no exceed him 40% which means you make got a little bit of room. Blow you me save make them some more borrowings. Blow fund them infrastructure. Blow you me all airports, all wharfs, all maritime jetties, with them all something all same. So by you must have exhaust them, but we will something will stop go in terms of revenue collection. You me look say stop go good, and then by me have enable them some savings. You me too lo employer.
Thank you too much, Deputy Prime Minister. I think you start mentioning about borrowings, just flow information will be more. Could you just say all past years come custom today is government getting too dependent will get foreign aid, foreign loans premium?
Talam lo me one country where me no got loan. I mean China will me develop become custom where me stop today. Me poro heavily lo countries who got capacity lo lend or even institutions or multilateral institutions. Borrowing emi want something we plan the people only demonize him say emi no straight. Pe blow you got investments, blow you develop a country, you need lo consider also maybe one option lo budget processes blow you me karam selen ikam and suppose you got as long as you make a all that strategy blow you me where me make him say you mean no sakam you me go heavily in that lo all count where you make it then place now by me have help you me little you me have manage more that you me pay unless you got all revenue streams you only big one enough only fund them all expenses you one year, and then you fund them all investments too all infrastructure you me be full up country only must depend all different instruments including borrowing where only must make them only fund them all investments lo country block that. So you mean no fright as long as you miss have manage him, as long as you have manage him, then we're good. Me apply to every individuals. Selen wo you walk lehem na ya blo you kare maybe me blog guy no mo. Peblo you invest lo one of the business you not had enough. So you know hesitate blo you go borrow. Be read wo you borrow lehem na me one of something. So me now me reality way stop and even me extend them answer blo me level di ko lo question say okay. Time where you look all businesses play you me. Some of you operate, only make a small profit, but even only no save you some profit blogger there, only invest you go back. So government me make them something available or some 927 million yeah, where you me make them available or some all businesses play me only save borrow, blow fund them certain things so borrowing and me shouldn't be one something will man only fright them. Governments only borrow because only want them fund them all new infrastructure so. You mean no should fright them as long as you are managing properly.
Thank you too much, TPM no answer. I think people will stop wondering. I think with them current situation, we start when especially the type of financial hardships where government we must face them. Is government where you call it them is it considering blow put one option to reduce some salaries, blow get a leaders MPs, blow help them situation we stop.
How much impact now when hemi make him, huh? Okay, all options you got, and in fact, low level blow Council of Ministers, we will been discussing more options, yeah. But time we got some one situation where me really warrant them, you me look all extreme measures also, then you me must make them, you me have make them, you me have streamline them. A little bit more low cost structures for me, including all remuneration levels, all leaders for me. But on one hand, time where you look lehem say okay, how much now? But by me contribute lo reduction, all cost. When we use a try you address him. When them impact now, and you look overall economy, you miss okay, is the revenue enough to sustain them? And suppose revenue enough to sustain them, then you mean say or something will be right. But time where you make us one point where me become critical because revenue you me not enough to keep up with them all costs you me and including remuneration costs. Then Bamba you miss go down lo rotia. But again, me want something where me been addressing with them all staff lo this morning lo briefing lo me vola say me want them say budget lo you lo next year Bamba you me try look say you me try reduce operational costs lo some areas lo you me reduce costs lo some areas. And that could be one something where you must have a consider and low level block government, we will have been discussing. But whether he got one serious need at this stage because suppose he country blue he make some one situation where me really needs you must go down the road there, then you must have a go down the road there. It shouldn't be a problem. I mean, whenever you must have current today, low level blow remuneration blow public servants with GRT and must have address them. All teachers now you must have increase them too. So time where you may cut them, then by you must have cut them across the board. One way we me want them address them perhaps better, through low income tax. So even suppose you lift them up salary below one minister or even anybody, including teachers and everybody, but with them income tax time where you introduce them, we should carry out the taxes law depending on scale law. Remuneration you pay at this point in time. Also, me tell them by the you know any introduction any new taxes, including income tax, until all systems you may stop in place. Then by you must have a look all options, and instead you may cut them wages for public servants, including ministers and everybody down. you give him silenia, belo en lotei, suppose income tax and become, pamba hemi have a level of ting blow man say, okay, we're paying too much, okay, you pay certain taxes, you come back to government, blow run all services for me, so place now you balance some of all ting.
David Prime Minister, but me come back no more answer you. I think just to clarify no more, are you saying that a current fiscal situation, I mean, warrant them government blow consider them option to cut them down salaries for leaders?
I mean, unless you look on something where me really seriously wrong, you me generate them surplus, which means cost of operation for government, including remuneration for public servants. And by look, me want something with GRD now, and by making determination, I cannot decide on that. And the law, GRD, you'll get only making determination for all salaries, all public servants, start all upper posts, they come down every level. So GRD, me decide them. At this stage, revenue collection, you stop exceeding all target, and back again, we repeat them, Dr. Blomi say. Situation now, yeah, emino, custom one stage who critical, custom one stage who serious to mass, by you look options, yeah, because end of the day, by suppose you custom place it, by you must go down the road.
Thank you, Thomas, Minister. I think since you Mr. talk about the economy, I think time you Mr. talk about the economy, Minister, you may not talk about more Port Phillip or look and feel. You think the government they start making enough to ensure them say all nara outer islands only equally benefit lo all get economic growth plimi.
Yes, and by me address them lo sense lo trade deficit plimi, yeah. And by me address some question here lo side here from time where you look lo trade deficit plimi hemi pick one, and then for example lo first quarter no more lo this year. First quarter no more, lo this year, stop around lo 8.4 billion, and to give him one annual picture lo trade deficit lo 2025, stop lo negative 37.1 billion, which means valuable all goods where you import them, compare lo exports, valuable exports, exports, I think you can say about 10 billion. Or something where you import them, maybe big one. So trade deficit, even suppose you say you try and address them all economic policies where government stop trying to address them now. You know, about Villa no more. With them Santo, for example, you call manufacturing. You go value addition lo all products lo taro lo all root crops lo coconuts for the next 10 years with them trade deficit we ikatia but really one challenge you balance you got one trade proper trade balance lo country from fuel no more, for example, fuel no more where you may stop import them now, yeah, and may stop around 47.6 billion lo 1 year. That's the total value of fuel where you may stop import them. And all exports for you got some 10 billion no more. So fuel no more, but time where you look lo merchandise or something where you need him, you may build him country, you may them. All house, all road, all something. Planted or something, and now you missed up import them become inside. So with them economic plans where government have cut, all islands for example, Santo have become one economic hub. You need invest in airport. You need to extra land. Lo Santo create one more new town. Lo Santo. You need to build them pack houses. Lo make them say all taro you may have export them go outside. So back houses lo Santo, for example, you may build them. Yes, government may spend them selling them, but you must spend the money. Lo make them say farmers only karam benefit lo market. Ol kata li karam taro lo kata lemon or even coconut lo kata li kam lo back house yumi export them ko. And then hemi lo malakula mbali launch in a long time. And then if other yumi got finished Pentecost by kat. Tana pamba hemi kat. So time we yumi start yumi go out lo all rural areas lo yumi like never before. Yumi build them all back houses lo places ya. Because yumi got all secured markets lo yumi. Then all economic benefits na hemi stop ko. Road hemi go finish. Back house hemi kam. You go make them current blue. You come go put on lo back house le Jerusalem. Ale bamba hemi increase in value blue exports blue yumi from 10 billion. I go on top. So and suppose hemi go on top lo 2 to 3%. But hemi still not enough. And hemi now mi sata lem se trade deficit blue yumi. Within the next 10 years, bamba yumi no save balance him off. But at least yumi do him everything necessary blue make him say all investments blue yumi lo airport. All tourists only come stop all places, all islands blue yumi. All kata tu only can benefit lo tourism. All investment blue yumi lo back houses. All kata tu only can benefit in terms of farming and production. All kata only put yumi go inside so lo back house and then yumi export them. So money yumi go directly lo kata. So time where you look leme in terms of all investments, you not only Portville and Santo. Today, big investment lo Pentecost. Lo road, lo yumi. But by road, we must kasem North Pentecost. Tana, Malakula, for example, where Council of Ministers just approved one big amount of money, where me about 18 billion. Lo road, where by some all selene, he come out lo Green Climate Fund. Government by me give him close to 7 billion vatu back again. Lo help him road lo yumi lo Malakula. So all investments it's not only for both Ville and Santo, but even for all islands blue yumi. Ambrem, for example, government hemi allocate them one budget, look at all machinery blue Ambrem no more. Why? Because yumi need blue yumi must make him road all every islands blue yumi. A Nigerian, for example, today government hemi allocate them 100 million no more. The road this time hemi outlaw alcohol hemi ko lo umech, and time we you run the road there. You find them buying everywhere. But you mean to harvest them all buying it? Ale Eromango, for example, road in need lo out lo ipota, lo kasem lo south, lo apilan. But why? Because you got manganese, you got kauri, you got all timber trees, all stuff. You mean to make them yet? So all investments lo government, all you must call all places here. So time where me vola all ministers, with them government, prime minister, all officials, time we will go to the we will look him neat. Mr. Sanem all economic assessment team, we will go down lo ipota, mo a Nigerian, only make him assessments. When him na him economic value lo pain. So time we will make him back, we will put him go. Maybe you need him to help him all get up, process him timba, and then only sell him lo market, and then all get that only can benefit. So investments and we go beyond just both villa. And Santo, and Mr. from Mabul Islands. We've never seen this over the last 46 years. But you be very determined to continue low investments, low public infrastructure.
Thank you, Thomas, Deputy Prime Minister. This very informative insight. I think people really appreciate them information we come out. I think last week, DPM developing staff story and we'll get another programs inside the news. We talk about we'll get the youth, me too. The opportunities they have inside the country, and then one of them is to travel and go outside. I think lol past years kami look thousands, lol get a youth premium stop go engage, lol get a seasonal work. Is it lol think you think say me one science local economy premium me fail lol get?
Yeah, I think absorptive capacity of economy you me want something where you may not been work good you me build them provide them employment, all people believe me. In terms of all economic activity, believe me. But this time, me believe say you me learn lo plant the mistakes. Political instability, me want big something. Investments lo all productive sector, me one naravala big challenge believe me because agriculture sector. emi one lo all biggest sector blue yumi, emi come behind lo generally service sector blue yumi. Emi should got more, emi should absorb more employment. But I'm all farmers blue yumi, only no save making because only got problem lo side lo capital. Lo selen we bambai only need him lo save making one hectare blokaran, or one big flakaran back again. Polino got capital, so government blue yumi looks have a place. So yumi karam selenia 927 million, yumi budum lo National Bank with them Rural Development Bank and probably bread. Lo only use selenia. And mimi HM all young people blue yumi only got fishing, only got strength. Karam selenia, you go invest lehem. My responsibility block government lo make them break through lo market access blue yumi. So government let me go find a market lo Australia or New Zealand. Ale selen him ya. Me will give him lo you go karem. You go invest lo karen and then put them go lo pack house. Ale you me export them. So you create them jobs lo you want. But I think want something with education system lo you me think say you may need to review them, me how education system play me should help them you go school, you come, you know walk blue na man all the time. And you go school, you come back, you walk, you want. Lo sense you got crown, selen him ya government me give him back house him ya, market him ya. So place ya me need to look at one shift, lo mentality you make him say you me become employers. You me employ you me it. But of course, I mean, all young people do only got freedom. You probably decide, and government me one program where government me decide with them government law Australia, all this tako. Me no want them discourage me because time we look low remittance, where all got only give me come back, and with them statistics, tata where you missed up karem, it's not small. Remittance will start give him lo country blue yumi, huge, and it would be around the vicinity of 11 billion vatul 1 year. And that's quite a lot. So idru you look lehem lo one way say absorptive capacity blo economy blue yumi blo save absorb everyone, maybe him enough. But now you start to building back absorptive capacity through the investments, the productive sector. But you always have this opportunity available to yourself too. You think things okay, make that opportunity, me walk around me go to Australia. And some you just look down the road there. But me think the time where you look lehem, but you no save talk about no good people me, but you look me and me think the government me stop doing everything necessary now. You me address them system you me work yet you me provide them employment you me and while you me still maintain them me stop it through me got impact lo productive sector you me too because me got out all young people you me productive force you me only go out and about 10,000 people only stop outside I mean one small number one country 340,000 people place you me need you me must stop manage them. And lo way me meeting seblu you help them all kata, you must look lo sectoral minimum wage, and then improve on production lo agriculture sector with the market. So time only come back, only go farm, be only got money, only got selling, or kata only decide lo go school or INDV or maritime college or tourism, be minimum wage lo kata me just slightly above the standard minimum wage. So you make them say by kata tu only have entitled to one decent living.
Thank you too much, Deputy Prime Minister. You mentioned him full up investment where government and Mr. Putumiko blo public survey access him blo only survey invest them. I think you've been start looking full up controversial talk is go around about the recent spendings where Mr. looking Mr. come out just blo think you know the side of transparency spending block government so Mr. blo level blo legislator and policy maker but then got full up complaints that come out will implement the implementation part how now one now get reforms where things government insurance the side of implementation where get investment where government is transparent more equal straight right people.
Firstly, you look merit lo policy where government emi stop trying to make why government emi stop allocate them selling you lo bank lo interest rate lo less than 5% or 5% or less. Emi lo help him ni Vanuatu lo emi save kat opportunity lo access lo cheap credit. Okay, you go around lo bank, then you come build them own business for you, market them. So bigger picture hemi you employ you one. Narvala ting tu se trade deficit you me emi big one. So you karam selene you farm, then budumi golo pack houses. You me value at them all processes for you me, and then you me sell them out. So intention blo government blo make them me simply blo address them issue blo trade deficit you me make them say or people only got only make them selling out lo ground blo kata. But throughout the process, yeah, you got something to do. We need to be transparent. And me looking, when we stop lo comment, lo when we public accounts committee, me stop put them out. Me save se prime minister, me make one address lo press conference blame. But me do me share some concern because you stop lo one age with social media, me cover up Yumi. Ale one information we back public accounts committee and got access to him. Public accounts committee only got one legislation when we govern work kata. And public accounts committee he should scrutinize him all expenditures of government, all audited expenditure of government, one program where we undertake one full year, and then he got one full picture, and then he present them out. One name was some little Olympics, so stop make them, we respect them right, Polgada, some Olympics, and me agree, the government and me must be kept law checks and balance. And me good, but you make them checks and balance with you, and me follow them law. By the time when you politicize them, then it becomes a problem because got full of man, only no save process some good information. And only thing say maybe 180 million, how much me stop look at, emi blown out. And I make them say people only question and plan there. Me agree say expenditure of government must be scrutinized. Work with park and stop make them, and work within the jurisdiction block that. But same time too, me maintain a position and me clear. Say anybody with any misuse of money of government, it should be dealt with according to the law. Suppose me committing one criminal offense, suppose me he got conflict of interest, he got something where me no threat, then people only should be penalized. Law according to law when we stop inside law where we govern them contact you me everyone. The fact that I got too much talk and me come out, me no have a way in law comments where me come out lo public and me want them transparency, me want them accountability. Anybody where me make him something where me no threat, he should be held accountable. But otherwise, me no derail him government. They me no stop him government. Pro government and we continue lo policy plan to ensure say you me bring up agriculture, you me karam cacao blue you me karam taro blue you me karam every resource blue you me add them value to him, and then you me sell them out, you make them selling. You got more inside the basket lo government. Whatever me happen within all processes here, I got all institutions only should deal with them, all people here, all people concerned for them law. But at this point in time, me remain focused law on them where me stop. Local parliament and we make them work blame, and minister responsible, all ministers responsible, only make them work law all kata too, for them when we required all kata, for them question law accountability with them transparency.
Just to clarify, are you saying that full of all kata questions we raised, especially inside all kata public hearings, full of police have look also maybe politicized to go against the government?
Well. There are political elements to all of this, and opposition is to make them work with him. Opposition make them work with him. By the time when you look him, or you go outside law scope, law work law, public accounts, also when we required the Public Expenditure Review Act, then you need lo custom so when na motivation lo all kata when findings to parliament hemi no haramiet lo report blehem olem bisu le stop inside lo public accounts committee le stop put them out lo public finish so parliament hemi no look one report yet. So what's the motivation there? Let them people only make their own judgments lo all kata. But I think we all members of parliament we should be more responsible because people will stop harem when we start about social media. You mean everyone, you mean no stop the same level, you mean analyze them whatever information we start about. Savalo ligaram se me na hemi be time we look all processes maybe ka all processes follow.
Thank you too much, Deputy Prime Minister. I think we can back namal kata projects we government nemi stop make them. Suppose you have some 3 projects we government nemi fund them. We think they perform really well, which we get a project na you have it.
Well, you got a number of projects where you may stop running, and particularly all projects where we got heavy capital expenditure, the law government, or side all roads for you me, and people only jump up and down against some government, law road, for you me, law Port Villa. But time we go, you look all pothole, you miss the cover map, all places you miss up cement them. You don't got any reaction, nothing to public protest. You missed up achieving something we have good. But I think the government missed up to invest them. Lo try and address more potholes. You mean lo Port Villa. One investment bank in the side lo aviation sector now. I mean reform where you missed up cut now, yeah. Particularly lo Vanuatu where you miss spend about 1 point something billion blue you me purchase some 2 aircraft, 1 hemi come finish. Ale naravalo 1 hemi pamba hemi come lo emplo manisha. We pamba hemi help and plan the 2 distribution lo passengers from Port Vila and Santo. You go all islands blue you me. I think supposed to be painting about say time lo liquidation lo Vanuatu. People only no more travel you go all islands lo plane ya. Benaya you missed up build them up again capacity blue airline blue you and you missed up concentrate first time lo domestic and then one big investment say you miss a aviation sector and now yeah government hemi and mitalam thank you lo chairman lo Vanuatu where emi only work hard this time government lo last week emi approve a services agreement blue you with them Solomon Islands which means by agreement time where you me conclude by hemi should look extra flight by Solomon Airlines to Santo, for example. So, all something he must have contribute back in lo visitor arrivals, you mean lo aviation arrivals, lo tourism. You mean look him say he must have go with him road where you may stop cut, including all teachers you may. All teachers you may got 4 point something billion lo outstanding lo all kata. Pe government he stop address him and recently. I got noise lo strike back again. Government just approved 163 million back again lo GRT and GRT now. You miss adalam so got now only responsible to determine rate for remuneration or wage flow or workman. Time with GRT hemi putum so okay or teachers only you should putum salary block at the level back again then hemi say government hemi go inside and then hemi effectively deal with them. Okay, naravela something lo side lo police. You make got outstanding lo police you make about 1.9 billion ya close up 2 billion. Pe you me deal with them lo level say lo supplementary budget you me give him close up 1 billion and me go lo police. Lo you me deal with them all gata okay performance lo police me one naravela something minister president leves me responsible ya. Pe suppose you look in one name government me make him there is quite a lot of things. Where government invest lo 1 year 6 months and you may look in some all developments let's say issue lo teachers and date back lo 2004 but you may able to you deal with them so they got planned a positive something with government and deal with them economy hemi kamanda you may start invest lo productive sector, you may make one breakthrough lo Australia, lo market lo taro, with the monara something. So we think government has done reasonably well.
Thank you too much, Deputy Prime Minister. I think time ino permiti mi tu blood continue discussion. Just blood last question mo blood rape mapa. Also, Minister, we responsible economy. How now by you have give him assurance, mo defend them performance for you. You call all people in line look at the economic recovery efforts, Mr.
Yes, and by me no one them being down performance block government lo surplus. Because there is no point say you hungry go you fall down dead be only gambusu man lo pocket be you got selen stop you did. Be selen we you make him management where you me got lo economy pro manage him all selenia and me one performance block government you me raise him enough you me raise him surplus ale you me control him spending you me control of spending blue you but you may still invest lo investments blue you so me looking me dalam thank you lo big man remember me give him you me strength blue you walk there's a lot of things blue you have invest them lo islands blue you garami camp or timpa or fish or something fishing sector me contribute lo 0.8% no lo GDP lo country very small you me want them look inside more them so me will stop work them but so far performance blue me good me believe says suppose you stop go all them then you should cut one surplus and the more you make cut surplus okay you save him small but the more you make cut surplus then I mean you must have invest in new roads new wharfs and new airports lo country and that's what when you me want them look but me have make one last talk no more you must stop come lo celebration blue you me World Cup and me finish you may want them look one spirit lo patriotism lo country blue you nationalist spirit way you look country blue you like him flag blame you like him color blame so July now me want them be you me everyone where you may start flying more foreign flags blue you me lo country blue you Mr. Government and me do everything possible you show him laugh lo country blue you karma out flag blue na country you put them up flag blue Vanuatu blue show him passion we you got lo jubilee lo you me we me stop come lo next 50 years be even celebration lo you me let's just be joyful that you me independent and fly him own flag lo you me because flag is a political symbol pro sovereignty so time when you start lo fly him sovereign symbol lo one of la country lo time lo celebration lo you me no give one good reflection be otherwise me talam thank you long everyone thank you lo patience lo everyone lo country you me doing best you me katsamvela something wo government me make me inip lo correct them but you me straight them bless us you me stop go but you me remain focused lo make them say country you me remain economically vibrant lo all time we me stop come
thank you too much Deputy Prime Minister lo behalf of VBTC news team especially lo pesembla talam thank you lisa make time sabe kamo historian lo this Stret Tok session first edition mo we believe say people very appreciative lo one we give him today especially lo insights lo economy play I think emana mi karami mi kam lo end blong Stret Tok session first edition mi talam thank you lo Deputy Prime Minister Minister of Finance we misabi give me some information we believe say by you take care with you mo you understand him one na current situation we must play especially inside the economy play thank you to mas pro join him me Jamie Brown as host play me talam thank you mi kata la honor bless host me lo first edition kasem next time you pass him one good time